Hello. In this tutorial, I'll be showing you how to connect your MySQL database hosted on AWS to your Appsheet app. There's a few prerequisites. First, choose a location where you can store your credentials. I'll be using Evernote. Second, create an account and log into the AWS console. And third, choose a tool that you're going to use to interact with your database. I'll be using the MySQL Workbench. A high-level process is to first configure the database instance in RDS, then create a table in the database, and finally connect the database to your Appsheet app. Jumping into RDS. This is the AWS Management Console, and we'll go to the RDS section. Create a database instance. Do this by going to the button in the top right. We'll create a MySQL database. Select the most recent version and choose a template. Enter the database identifier. This is how you'll recognize your database in the AWS console. You can record this name in your notes. Expand the credentials settings. Enter a username and password and store this information in your notes. Select the size for your database. I recommend starting small. You can always scale up in the future. Next, expand the additional connectivity configuration. Change the publicly accessible setting to yes. This creates an IP address for Appsheet to connect to your database. Create a new VPC security group. Expand the additional configuration section. Give your database a name. This is the name that will identify your database inside the Appsheet app. Record this information in your notes. The rest of the settings can stay at their default values. Finally, create the database. By clicking on the database, you can see the specifications. Copy the endpoint into your notes. You can see on this screen where the database instance ID is recorded and the database name. Next, enter the MySQL Workbench and create a connection to your new database. The connection name here will be used to identify your database inside MySQL Workbench. The host name should be set equal to the database endpoint. Grab this from your notes. The username and password should be set to what you specified while setting up the database in RDS. Test the connection. Success! Okay, next we'll open up the database and create a table. Create a table by going to the left-hand side, right-clicking, and creating a table. Now we can specify the name of the table. I'm going to call this Offices, and I'm going to give it a couple columns. Office ID will be the primary key for Appsheet. Name and location will be text fields. You can see in MySQL that the data type is oftentimes different from what we see in Appsheet. Varchar is a generic data type to contain both text and numbers. The idea here is to set a data type that will hold anything that you give it from Appsheet. It's better to set the constraints on the data types inside the Appsheet editor. Apply your changes. MySQL Workbench will create the SQL code to modify the table. Go back to AWS and open up the VPC security groups. We need to add IP addresses from Appsheet to the RDS instance. Do this by going to Actions and Edit Inbound Rules. Here, you'll need to add a rule for every IP address that Appsheet uses. You can find the IP addresses online at the link on the bottom of the screen. You need to create a total of 19 rules. After you've created a row for every rule, change the type to allow all traffic. Next, enter the IP addresses from the Appsheet website. After each IP address, add /32. After you've added your last IP address, now we can go back and connect the database to our Appsheet app. Do that by going to My Account and creating a new data source. Select the cloud database. The type is MySQL. The server is equal to the database key. Get this from your notes. Database is equal to the name that you specified in RDS. Now enter your username and password. In this case, we do not require SSL. Test your connection. Success! Authorize access. The default database name is not descriptive. Go ahead and edit this by clicking on it and entering a new name. This is the name that you'll use to identify your database inside the Appsheet app. You'll need to re-enter your password and test the connection. Then authorize. Now you can make a new app. Select the data source you just created and identify the table you'd like to start with. Appsheet will make the connection to your new SQL database. You can see your new table show up in the editor. Select the table and go to the table view. Here you can change the add, edit, and delete permissions. Give yourself the ability to add a row. In the editor, go ahead and click the Add action. Enter information into the form and click Save. After Appsheet syncs the data, you can go back to the MySQL workbench. Click on the table to see the data. Lo and behold, the data from Appsheet has been added to our MySQL database. Congratulations! From here, you have the power to scale your app from one row to tens of thousands of rows.